Bailey-Seiler to lead us. And from Five Stone Media, Prison Ministry. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome. Thanks, Dick. Thank you all. First of all, thank you you've been a great gift to me this morning. That worship was wonderful. It's a rare treat for me to sit and listen to people worship like that. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for listening to me today. I hope I'm not going to go too long. That's me. Let's go. Serving others through story. There we go. That's me up there. I'm going to talk about Five Stone Media a little bit, and I know that some of you, or many of you, are familiar with Five Stone Media, and you've welcomed my boss, Steve Johnson, here. Many of you know, and have known for many, many years, so thank you for raising him to be the man that he is, those of you who did that. This is what I'm going to try to do today. I'm going to talk about a new curriculum we have called the Story Mission Curriculum. I'm going to give you a little update on what's happening with Eagle Brook Church behind bars. You may or may not know that Five Stone Media is sort of the prison ministry arm of Eagle Brook Church, and we get to do a lot of wonderful things because of that. I'm going to talk about ways that you might be able to plug into our ministry. Not that everyone has to, but if you're moved to, if you'd like to, then we may have ways that you could be involved. And then I want to hear a little bit about your story also. So let me start with this. How many of you would call yourself storytellers? How many of you tell stories? Oh, please, I know there's more than that. All right, what do you tell stories about? What do you talk about when you share? Why do you tell stories?
To be a friend.
To be a friend? All right. What?
Educate.
To educate. Anyone else?
For fun.
For fun? For entertainment? Yes. Someone else?
Because God did something.
Oh, because God did something. Ah, interesting.
Experiences.
To share experiences? Anyone else?
Encourage.
Encourage. Wonderful.
Family history.
To share family history? Excellent. We tell stories, many of us, partly because we're of a certain age. When I ask that question to much younger people, my kids, people that we run across inside jails and prisons, they don't tell stories that much. Part of the issue that goes on these days is that, you might resonate with this, is that it seems that younger people are losing the ability to communicate personally. The only kind of communication we ever had, right, is a different kind of communication world today. And so for people to sit around and tell stories for encouragement, or to illuminate God, or to share personal history, or to entertain, those kind of stories are not as prevalent these days. And that's something that we would like to change. We would like to do something about. So I'm going to start with one of my stories. I'll try not to be too long, but some of you may know, I know some of you do know, I know some of you pretty well, that I have an addiction background. I'm an alcoholic and got recovery through the Quest 180 ministry at Eagle Brook Church, which is a wonderful thing. And helped to save my life, and God put me together with the right people at the right time. Through that ministry, I was able to serve and lead small groups from time to time. And so at the Blaine camp, I walked into the White Bear campus drunk and was welcomed. Without question, I was welcomed, which is something unusual for me to see in a church. And so I stayed. I actually tried to leave. Down in the first night I was here, I was down in the big auditorium, and we're listening to Jeremy Sanoski and Christian Ankrum and everyone else up on the platform playing. And it's a little unusual for me. I hadn't heard that kind of worship music before. And halfway through the worship set, I got up and I gotta go because, frankly, I had a bottle in the car. And I tried to go out the back doors, the doors down below, and there were two men, Bob and Joe, Bud and Joe, who Bob would know, but Bud and Joe standing at the door, and as I'm trying to leave, they go, where are you going? And I said, well, I got to get something out of my car. And they said to me that what you need is not in your car. What you need is in here. And then they started to talk to me, and they told some stories about themselves and what they did and why they were here. And they just long enough to distract me until large group got out, and then everyone's coming out, and I kind of got caught up in the flow like salmon going upstream, and they pulled me into their small group, and I stuck. And it was Bud and Joe and Bob and Jim and all kinds of people who kind of welcomed me in and took me in their arms and kept me safe until I could then help someone else. So I'm leading a small group at the Blaine campus much later, about 6 or 7 years ago, and this guy comes in. His name is Ryan. Ryan sits in our group, and if you're not familiar with the support group model, we sit in circles and we have a topic we talk about. It's just like any other small group. And we go around the table and everyone shares if they want to. They don't have to, but go around and talk about the topic or your own life or your successes or whatever, failures often. So Ryan comes into this meeting and I take the group around the discussion. I say, Ryan, do you have anything you want to share? And the first time he says, no, I don't want to share anything. I'll pass, which is fine. People pass from time to time. The next week, Ryan came back, which doesn't always happen, but Ryan came back and we go around our circle again in small group, and I say, Ryan, do you want to share anything this week? And again, he says, no, I'll just pass. And week 3, he says, I'll just pass. And this goes on and on and on for week after week, and for about 11 weeks. And about week 5 or 6, I'm starting to hear from other people in the group, hey, what's this guy doing in here? He's not helping us. Why isn't he sharing? He's not contributing. He's, complaints about this guy just taking up space. And so I'm going to say something to him, and week 12 rolls around. And we're talking about forgiveness, I think, is what the topic was. And I get around to Ryan. I say, Ryan, is there anything you want to share with the group? And we are met by this incredibly long, uncomfortable silence. And then Ryan says in this really soft voice, had to really be listening, 2 years ago I killed my brother and I don't know how to talk about it. Yeah, that's exactly what happened in the room too. So he just sits there for 11 weeks, and then all of a sudden he lets us into his story in a really big way. What's the moral of that story? I've been thinking about Ryan for a long time. 6 or 7 years I think about Ryan, quite often, once a week maybe. And I've seen him a couple times since then, and he's doing fine. But I sort of landed on, originally, I thought the moral to that story was you need to give people the time and space they need to be comfortable. And that's true, for sure. That's definitely a moral to that story. There's not just one moral to a story necessarily, though. So I continue to be bugged by Ryan a little bit, and it occurs to me that the big story I take from Ryan now is that he sat there for 11 weeks listening to people be vulnerable and trust each other and share just their personal experiences, their victories, their failures. And he sat there and digested that long enough, that just simple humanity. He sat there and digested that long enough for him to feel safe to do the same thing, to be vulnerable and trust. So, that is a strategy. Just people simply sharing their personal stories, their experiences, to allow another person to walk through suffering better, to help another person who's struggling. The idea of sharing our experiences and our wisdom so that someone else maybe doesn't need to struggle as much as we do. That's a strategy that God has been hitting me over the head with for almost 13 years now. Experiencing situations where people gather in groups and tell stories that have a purpose, where people get together and communicate wisdom to each other. A skill or a gift, whatever you want to call it, that is fading from our culture. So we have this new curriculum that is designed to help people do that. And at Five Stone Media, that's sort of what we do with all of our resources. If you know anything about us, we create curriculum for people who are going through various struggles. And all of those resources are built on personal stories of people. People who have walked through something. Now, these people happen to all be Christians and have a Christ-centered story. We don't lead with that. We don't hit people over the head with the gospel. But all of the stories that we share in our curriculum are people who have Christ in their life and who have survived some kind of a struggle. And they're helping other people walk through that too. People find value in that. So this is our story mission curriculum. Helping people explore and understand their past experiences to find simple stories that have created wisdom that could be passed on to others. There's an element to this equation that's tricky, is that we as people go through struggles in life, and through those struggles we gain wisdom, right? And then what do we do with it generally? If you have something negative that happens in your life, what do you tend to do with it? Put it behind you. Leave it behind. I want to forget that, period. My addiction, I did some terrible things. I made life miserable for people. Did a lot of collateral damage that I would love to forget and put behind me and pretend never happened. But if I did that, if we all did that, the people in the future who are struggling right now, they're not helped. So that's a tricky equation. So story mission is a result of us interviewing. We have interviewed hundreds of people for our curriculum and for our resources, for our podcast, our radio show, whatever. And we've sat in discussion groups inside prisons and out with thousands of other people over the years. And what we've learned is that personal stories are an excellent and overlooked strategy to help other people. So we're going to help people do that. What are the obstacles to that, though? First of all, many people, especially people who have had lots of negative consequences in their life, the people that we work with inside jails and prisons or in addiction, most of us don't know how to recognize the valuable stories from our own lives. We don't like to look back, we don't want to analyze that stuff, and so we don't see the value there. And then we're also not always great at recognizing opportunities to share any wisdom we might have learned along the way. Thirdly, if we can identify the wisdom we've learned through our experiences, and if we recognize that someone else needs that wisdom and I'm going to share it with them, I have an opportunity to share with them, most of the time, a lot of people don't know how to put their wisdom into words that doesn't sound prideful or boasting or judgmental. So part of the story curriculum helps people do these three things. Recognize the valuable stories from their lives, see opportunities to share that wisdom, and then understand how to put that wisdom into words so that someone else may be helped by it. So why do we think that story is an important enough thing to build a whole curriculum around? Well, we've been doing this for a long time through the video resources we produce, and we've seen it work in people's lives in tremendous ways, transformational ways. Lives are totally different because of these kinds of experiences. So what we wanted to do, we decided, is we want to equip everybody to be able to do that. You shouldn't have to have a camera and a production studio and interview people to be able to do this. Everyone should be able to do this. So I'm going to give you this to think about for the summer. While you are off and cogitating on things over the summer, think about story and how it works in your life. How do you use the stories of your life? one of the things that we do, the very first part of the curriculum is about the value of story and why story is a tool that God gave us. And we believe that this is a strategy that God gave us. God looked down at one point in the past at his world and saw that we were not getting it. He saw that we were struggling with how to do life. We were struggling with how to understand him, how to understand each other, how to understand our world. And what did God do? God came down here on a mission trip to help us. And one of the primary tools he used to help us, and that he continues to use, is story. God modeled how to do this. So I'll give you an example from the story mission curriculum of how we start to talk about story with people, and then how we tie that into Scripture. So this is a Scripture that we like to use because it's a Scripture that we try to use Scripture that is accessible for new believers, because we deal with a lot of people who are figuring out faith for the first time, or who are figuring out faith after having been damaged by faith for a long time. And also, we deal with people who are incredibly gifted in spiritual ways, who understand the Bible in ways that I never will. If you have 26 years to sit in a cell and do nothing but read the Bible, you can be pretty good at knowing the Bible. So this is Romans 15, 1 through 4. We who are strong ought to bear with the failings of the weak and not to please ourselves. Each of us should please our neighbors for their good and to build them up. So this is sort of a let's look at other people rather than ourselves directive. For even Christ did not please himself, but as it is written, the insults of those who insult you have fallen on. I think Jason or John just talked about this in a message recently. For even Christ did not please himself, but as it is written, the insults of those who insult you have fallen on me. For everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the Scriptures and the encouragement they provide, we might have hope. Someone who's reading a passage of Scripture like this has a lot of places where they can put themselves in the Scripture. The failings of the weak, people pleasers, please their neighbors. It's a foreign concept for many people that we work with to think about another person first. This helps them see that. So there are ways that we can help people enter into a study of Scripture through the study of their own stories. And another thing we'll do in the curriculum is to find stories that from people's lives, and then try to match them parallel to Scripture. To find Scripture that parallels the same thing that happened in their life. Happens more often than you can imagine. You've seen yourself in Scripture, haven't you? Where you're reading and you go, wait a minute, that was me. We like to help people discover those kinds of things. So we will use Scripture, but with a light touch. It's not the primary part of our curriculum, but it is part of our curriculum for sure. So this is the story mission curriculum. And I'm being super brief here, so if you have questions, I'm happy to answer more later. And I would love to come back sometime and take you guys through a portion of this curriculum that would be, I think, pretty fun for you. So we talk about why stories work, the value and biblical example of serving others through story. The part 2 of the curriculum is called story mining. This is what I would love to do with you. It says how to find the stories from your own past that have produced wisdom in you. And oftentimes we have wisdom that we don't even think we have. If I asked you, how many of you have gained wisdom in your life? Put your hand up if you've gained wisdom in your life. Interestingly, what if I asked you if you are wise? How many of you think you're wise? Yeah, you don't want to put your hand up, do you? It's an interesting thing. And when you ask that to people who are sitting in a jail or a prison, what do you think the response is that we get? They don't think they have any wisdom at all. But where does your wisdom come from? The greatest wisdom comes from the greatest struggles, right? And who's gone through more struggles? Homeless, addicted, arrested, in jail, lost your family. The list goes on and on. Those are massive things to overcome that can create massive wisdom. But people can't see that they're in the middle of building wisdom when they're in the middle of it. So story mining, we take people through this story mining project to find and develop the useful stories from their own lives. And then next part is finding entry points. That is how to see an opportunity when someone needs to hear your wisdom. And then sharing stories 101 is just how to put that into words, how to do that. So that's really briefly, the story mission curriculum, and I apologize for being so brief, but we don't have a lot of time because I want to tell you a little bit about Eagle Brook behind bars also. What's going on with Eagle Brook inside institutions. So in, I don't remember, was Steve here a year ago? Does anyone remember how long ago Steve was here to talk about this? I don't know if we had started viewing groups inside jails yet, but God has certainly trusted us beyond what we think is reasonable, but He has opened doors that are just crazy, and this is not it's just a different chapter in the Eagle Brook story because it happens all the time, right, for Eagle Brook, but we have viewing groups now in Hennepin County Jail, Ramsey County Jail, Wright County Jail, Crow Wing County Jail, Nobles County Jail, Pope County Jail in Wisconsin, and this year we'll be adding Chisago County Jail, Dakota County, and we would love to add Itasca County. And many of these are jails that come to us asking for this. How do we get a church service that you guys, we provide the Eagle Brook church service on a weekly basis to these jails. We do that either through volunteers where it's live, where 2 people go in or 2 or 3 people go in and take a flash drive and plug it into the TV and then they play church. And we sit there and worship. And Mark Byerly in the back there, he does that with us. Some of you could do this if you wanted to. Go in and we sit and worship with 8 or 10 people, men or women, and we watch the sermon, and then if we have time, we talk about it. It's just doing church. So we do that with volunteers, or there are some places where we electronically, virtually give them the service and they broadcast it. For instance, in the state prison system, in the 10 facilities in the state prison system, the Eagle Brook church service for a long time now has been the only church service that's available, even though any church could put their church service up there. For some reason, Eagle Brook decided they would do it and nobody else did. So the Eagle Brook service is shown twice on Sundays in the state prison system. So what that means is it's available to 8,500 men and women, and on top of those 8,500 men and women are all the staff who happen to be hanging around who watch church too. That happens pretty regularly. We love it. The guards and correctional officers inside the county jails too, they often lurk outside the door and listen to the service. And we say, come on in, you can come in. So this is what God has done is gone so far beyond our expectations that we can't even describe it. In the counties we do, it looks like this. This is Hennepin County. These are small classrooms. There's a TV station up in front there. The very first time we did this, we started in Hennepin County Jail a couple years ago, and they needed a TV and a stand and everything, and Eagle Brook stepped up and provided that. And it was a wonderful thing, very kind of an expensive version of what we do, but nowadays we've got that down to where we can build we call it a viewing station. It's a TV and a sound bar and a cart, and we can do that for $800. And this is often the barrier to us getting into a jail. Can you believe that? $800. There are people sitting in cells who can't go to church because there isn't an $800 TV system. And so we give those as much as we can. And we have donors who step up and say, here's go do this again. And we have jails too right now waiting for new, for viewing stations so that people could be exposed to church, hear the gospel, get saved, have baptism. They actually do baptism in some of the jails. Wonderful. That's Wright County is one of the places where we do, where they do baptisms. I'm going to see, if you look at the two guys in the front in the green, these are older guys, Asian guy and the African American guy. These two guys were in the very first viewing group we did in the Hennepin County Jail 2 years ago, I think, something like that. He's ignoring me. A couple years ago, those two guys were in the room. They're the very first group we did, and they've been sitting there ever since. So you can take that for whatever you want. Either they deserve to be there, but I don't care. Maybe they do, but what it means is that Eagle Brook Church has been their church for more than 2 years, and it may be just the only piece of spiritual feeding they get. So it's a very valuable thing. Ramsey County Jail is the newest one. We got in there just recently. Again, this is a waiting list. We get to just a small percentage of the people in these jails because there isn't enough A, volunteers to go in, or B, viewing stations to let them see it. And so we go into the Ramsey County Jail on Tuesday nights, and we alternate every other week as men and women. And volunteers, we just have a handful of volunteers, so Ramsey County's not too far away. If you're interested, this is a great opportunity, or if you know anyone else. So another thing that we do is we take prayer requests from everyone. We take lots of prayer requests, am I right? We get a lot of prayer requests. Anita's on our prayer team, and some of you may be on our prayer team too. We email out our prayers twice a month to a prayer team of 61 prayer warriors who take the prayers that are unbelievably authentic. We ask people in jail for prayers every week before we go on a little index card, and they write them out, and they say, please set me free at my court date tomorrow, or what, you know. Really, a lot of them are self-serving prayers, but aren't they all? But many of them are others-focused, especially when it comes to kids and family. Please take care of my kids while I'm in jail. Please take care of my family. Please take care of my mom who's sick while I'm in jail. It's just really, it's heart-wrenching. This is one that, simple one that we got a few weeks ago from Ramsey County Jail. Please be merciful to me, a sinner. Some of them are really profound. So where do you guys, and one other thing, Pando app, February of 2024, so a year and a half ago almost, we started putting content, including Eagle Brook services and our own content, onto an app that goes into people's tablets inside prisons around the country. And that is, I think between 500,000 and 600,000 people get this on their tablets. And they have access to what we do. We have, in the last year, a little over 2 million views as of today, and over 5,000 salvations as a result of that. Now you say, how can someone be saved over a tablet? Well, they watch our content, or they watch an Eagle Brook service, and at the end it says, would you like to know more about Christ? And they can click on it, and then they get a message from, actual video message from someone who takes them through the gospel, through a decision message, or decision prayer. And then if they do say, if you prayed that prayer and you want more information on, as a new believer, click here, and it takes them through new believer content, new believer resources. So responses to through that app, the Pando app, we've had over 5,000 salvations, which is not. It would never occurred to us that this would be a thing, ever. So we're very grateful. So we're trying new things all the time. We partner with a number of ministries around the country to distribute our content. And we make short films to turn into curriculum. We just recently finished shooting 2 new short films. We have another one in the works for probably this fall. So we can get a curriculum out there for people as they're coming out of prison, for re-entry and meeting the roadblocks. We could use prayer for this, by the way. A lot of things. We can please be praying for this ministry. We have lots of opportunities. You will hear in a couple weekends, if you go to Eagle Brook Church services for Make a Difference weekend, you will be, I hope, inspired by something that the musicians at Eagle Brook did in the Rush City prison, which we got to have a part in, and it was very rewarding. Donut days, we bring donuts into some of the prisons for the staff because we like to minister to the staff as well. So at Stillwater Prison, I think we brought in 200 half dozen donuts, or 200 some half dozen donuts for the staff one day. And it's a little note on it with an invitation to come to Eagle Brook Church. And there's a lot of different ways to minister in the incarceration world. Bibles and TVs, where we will provide, if we can, Bibles and TVs. We can't always do it just because funds are really limited. We're a pretty small organization. We get great support from Eagle Brook Church, but we have God's given us a lot of work to do and not a lot of resources to do it. So where do you fit? Here are some things where you could jump in if you want. If you're not, this is not for everybody. We understand that. I want you to know that this is not a scary thing. It might be scary the first time you go into a jail or a prison, but we've been doing it for many, many years, and it's perfectly safe, and it's really, really rewarding. If you've never worshiped in a room with 8 people before who really mean it, man, you will be inspired, I guarantee it. So you can help us if you want to host a viewing group, if you want to be one of our volunteer viewing group hosts. We'll help you. We'll help you get trained inside the jail. You'll go along with someone. You don't have to do this by yourself until you're ready. We need prayer team volunteers. Dick Locke's going to come up afterwards and remind you of this, but you can sign up to be a prayer team volunteer or to connect with us and learn more through our website. If you have connections in county jails, it would be super valuable to us to connect us to sheriffs or deputies or program people in counties where we're not currently active, especially if you know anyone in Grand Rapids. We've been trying to get in Itasca County because they want it in there bad. And then we always have an ongoing need for viewing stations, these $800 TV systems that can open the door for people who are going in. So that's sort of where you fit, and I've already gone over my time, so I want to thank you. I'm going to release the platform to someone, won't be me, but I'll be around, and I'm happy to answer questions and help you get plugged in if you'd like to help, if you'd like to be a help. Thanks for your time.